Hi folks, welcome to the week 5 focus video for MH510 Alpha in the fall of 2024. This week we're going to be dealing with consensus history and historians. So let's just kind of jump right into it. First, as we get further into the course, you've gotten used to the system, gotten the basic weekly dance down, figured out how to footnote the sources. So let's start doing the little flourishes in the dance to advance to the next level. So I'm going to start looking for you citing your peers in your peer posts. See the example below. That's kind of how I want you to do it. So let's start citing from each other as we go through our responses. Okay, 2 discussion questions, similar pattern, and we're going to continue this pattern for a few more weeks. The consensus school per se developed in the United States during the tumultuous years of about 1935 to 1945 in response to the threats, both economic, political, and military, that the U.S. faced, but it draws from the earlier romantic and nationalist schools of history in the 19th century, who were sort of the follow-on to the empiricists, trying to apply some empiricist methodology, but with a bit more of, I don't know if I'd call it an agenda, but yeah, something like that. Other countries have produced similar schools that seek to identify the unifying and unique aspects of a nation's history. Based on your reading thus far in Arnold, Gaddis, Novick, Tosh, Truman, and Williams, discuss the three most significant characteristics of the consensus school, and what do you think the strengths of this approach are and what weaknesses exist within the consensus/national school. Your second question is, who is Richard Hofstadter? Provide a 1-paragraph biography and then go on to describe why he is considered a consensus historian, or maybe he isn't. For the discussion question, there are a couple additional links that you can take a look at and consider as you write. Consider the following: the time and place. Why does it happen when it does? What's going on in America at the time? Who preceded the consensus school? Look at who the consensus historians are. Are they really conservatives, at least conservatives in today's definitions, as students often imagine? What are the characteristics of the consensus school and what are the strengths and weaknesses? A little bit more on discussion question 1, the consensus school. The consensus school is named by those who replace it, the New Left. The consensus historians were not seeking to create or impose a consensus. Rather, they saw more consensus than contention in America's past. The consensus historians were looking back into American history and seeing the things past Americans held in common. That compromise rather than conflict dominated the late 18th and 19th century American history, which was their emphasis. Though they also recognized that there were issues of contention as well, slavery, abolition, and the Civil War being the principal exception to the American rule. The consensus historians are often accused of supporting American exceptionalism. But ask yourself, what did exceptionalism mean to consensus historians? Does exceptionalism as used by the consensus historians mean excellent? America is more excellent than other countries? Or does it mean an exception to the rule? In this case, the rule being the frequent and widespread civil unrest and revolution of late 18th century and 19th century continental Europe. So, is exceptionalism we're excellent, more excellent than anybody else, or does it mean our history is different from what happened in Europe? We're the exception to the rule. Who is Richard Hofstadter? Discussion question 2. Provide a one-paragraph biography, and then go on to describe why he is considered a consensus historian. In your introductory paragraph with a thesis, is he not a consensus historian? Then a one-paragraph or one-page biography. Then, using the characteristics of consensus history, examine what you know about Hofstadter's approach to history, demonstrate why you think he is or is not a consensus historian. Then there's some more sources on Richard Hofstadter, linked to exterior places. So feel free to go ahead and take a look at those and use those in your response if you wish. Although Novick does a good job, those exterior sources, I think you can probably pull some out of Tosh as well. Okay, looking ahead, 2 slides on the week 7 annotated bibliography, which is due on Sunday of week 7. Be sure to focus on these 6 main points with a sentence or 2 on each. What the overall argument is, what the argument with specific focus on your topic is. 1 and 2 may be the same because the book or article may be focused specifically on the topic you're examining. So then 1 and 2 are the same. But so you wouldn't have to do 1 and 2. You'd just do what is the topic? What's the argument, rather? What general sorts of primary source evidence the author uses, letters and diaries, government reports and records, etc. Be specific as to collections, the letters and diaries of Thomas Jefferson, and so on. The primary source evidence they lean into to make their argument in a narrowly focused paper. Again, if you're talking about Thomas Jefferson, then the general primary sources that they use throughout the paper are going to be the letters and diaries of Thomas Jefferson. And when they want to make a point, when they're making their key argument about Jefferson, again, it'll be the same stuff. So 3 and 4 may be the same. Then identify the general school of interpretation. Do the best you can here. Though the date of the work may be an indicator, the author may be a holdover from an earlier school or a precursor for an emerging school, or in the case of empiricists and Marxists, they transcend the typical dating of schools. If you can't put a finger on it, then addressing their subfield, military, diplomatic, great man, bottom up, race, class, and gender, will be sufficient. The position of the work in terms of a particular topic. So 2 different pieces. What's the general school of interpretation, or at least the subfield? And then the position of that work in terms of the particular topic. Are they pro-labor or pro-company? If you're looking at the mine wars in West Virginia, for instance. Are they pro-Lee or pro-Meade when you're looking at the Battle of Gettysburg, etc.? What the annotated bibliography is not. It is not a summary of the contents. This may vary, however, based on why you are preparing the annotated bibliography in subsequent courses and what your professor requests. I want these 6 things. Other professors may be looking for something else. What the annotated bibliography is. It is a guide for you, a roadmap, so to speak, as you write your historiographic essay. Okay, now into the little nitty-gritty ankle-biter stuff. Be sure to use the cover sheet from the template, and be sure you grammar and spell check. I don't have that listed here. That's kind of like an automatic, duh. Be sure to use standard Chicago Manual of Style bibliographic entries from Chapter 14. I'd single-space the bibliographic entry. Do not number the bibliography. Double-space the annotation. It is a good idea to footnote the arguments that you're pointing out in lines 1 and 2. Always 12-point Times New font, 12-point Times New Roman font for the bibliographic entries and the annotations. Always use 10-point New Roman font for footnotes. 5 monographs is the maximum number of books/monographs you can use, 10 scholarly journal articles, not book reviews, though they may be useful in analyzing the monographs you select. 10 scholarly journal articles is the minimum. A single chapter from a monograph or anthology is considered as an article for our purposes here. So 15 sources as a minimum. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I think we're done. We are done. Y'all take care, stay safe, and I'll see you around the campus. Bye-bye.